Good evening, my name is Gerson Cardona and I am from Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been in ministry several years now, but I was born in a pastor's home. I'm a pastor's kid myself, and probably one of the worst. I remember trying to live my own life, my own way, my own rules. I remember growing up trying to satisfy my flesh, my desires. But that didn't work for me. Many years ago, when my wife and I were not married and got together, she came out pregnant with our first child, Neftali. I remember going to different hospitals, different clinics, and they would tell us the same thing, that our child was going to be Down syndrome, and that it was better for us to have an abortion because families are not ready for a child like that. See, for us, it was difficult. It was my first child. I was expecting him. I was excited and I was thankful that I would have an opportunity to enjoy this child. Well, it was a difficult time. I remember us being at a clinic one time, and the doctors there were telling us that we had to make a decision. We had to make a decision right there and then, because it would be too late if we didn't make a decision then. They wanted us to have an abortion. They wanted us to get rid of the child. They said it was too dangerous. They said we were not ready. They would show us videos. They would discourage us to have the baby. I remember sitting at a chair in the hallway outside the clinic. When my wife was inside, they were interviewing her and wanting her to sign the paper so she can have an abortion. I was sitting down with my head down and just praying and asking God to forgive me, to have mercy. Even though inside my heart I thought He would never hear me, because I was a sinner. He could never hear me. He could never forgive me. But all of a sudden, a lady stands in front of me and she tells me, He says everything is going to be alright. When I raise my eyes up, she's already walking away. I was crying and thanking God. So I went inside the clinic office and I told my wife that we were leaving, that we were not having an abortion, that we were going to have the baby no matter what. And we walked out. This was 14 years ago. Now I have a son who's a worship leader, who plays the guitar, the keyboard, the bass, the drums, who sings to the Lord. The enemy wasn't satisfied that I sinned. He still wanted to keep away from me my child, my fruit, the gift of God. So we went back to the church, even though I felt guilty again. And I felt dirty and I felt like God couldn't forgive me. I still went to church, but I was just going to church. I wasn't really involved. I wasn't really doing what He was calling me to do. And for the next 2.5 to 3 years, we were just attending church, but we were not doing what God calls us to do. I felt that God could never forgive me. That even if I prayed for mercy, He could never forgive me. And I couldn't forgive myself for failing God. I remember when we were pregnant with my second child, Merari. I remember the enemy too trying to take away our next child. We went to the hospital and they said, yes, you were pregnant, but We can't find a heartbeat. We can't find a baby inside of you. My wife was very certain, very sure that she had a baby, but the doctor said, no, I can't see anything in anything in the ultrasound. Little did we know that the day we were going to do a cleanup so they could clean my wife because they assumed that the baby was dead, that day we asked the nurse to do one more ultrasound. The nurse went ahead and said, look, I'm going to do another more ultrasound, but there's nothing there. There's no baby. And if there was one, it's dead. So the nurse kept on doing the ultrasound. And after a few minutes, all of a sudden, she sees something. And she unmutes the button. And she hears a heartbeat. The nurse starts bawling and crying with us. Once again, the enemy wanted to take away the blessings that God was giving us. The fruits, our children. Now my daughter is 12 years old. And she plays the piano and she sings for the Lord. See, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you've been through. I don't know how great your sin was. I don't know how much you think you failed God. Let me tell you something. The God that I serve, He is my Father. He is your Father. And as a Father, there is nothing we can do to disappoint Him. He will always, just as the prodigal son came back and his father embraced him, He will always be waiting for us to embrace us. The Father, God, is waiting for you, no matter what you have done. I don't know what you're going through right now. I don't know what's happening in your life. Maybe you lost your marriage. Maybe you lost your job. You lost anything that is valuable of you. But let me tell you something. And maybe you have been in sin and you think God cannot forgive you. Let me tell you that the God that I serve, it's a merciful Father. And He wants us to come back to Him. Just like the prodigal son. To ask Him if He would accept us. If He would take us in. So I just want to bless you today. Do not lose hope. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. If you surrender your life to Christ and you acknowledge that God is your Father, He will lift you up and He will forgive you and raise you up. And He will clean you. And He will put a ring in your finger. And He will forget all your sins. May the Lord bless you today.